Good morning. Welcome to Old Dog Woodshop. My granddaughter hit me up the other day on that Facebook thing, and she said she needed a couple of chairs to set out in her backyard for her and her financee. And she wanted the same style as the rocking chairs that I built, which was the Adirondack style. So what I did is I went through numerous books that I have to find one that I liked. You know, everybody builds a standard Adirondack chair. But I found one that I took a liking to and decided that was the one that I was going to build for her. And I got that out of this book that I got, so I can't take credit for it. This is a Handyman Club of America. If you're a part of that club, you know what I'm talking about. But the Adirondack chair I've decided to build for my granddaughter is this one right here. And it looks fairly decent. Pretty much all straight cuts. You ain't got very many tapers that you got to worry about. I went ahead and built one, and let me go ahead and take you out there and show you that chair, and we'll go from there. Out here in my storage container, there's a picture of that chair. It didn't turn out too shabby. Mostly straight cut. Your standard Adirondack chair has got that feathered, rounded over top, and this is all pretty well square. And you got some corners cut off on your back seat assembly. Got a couple of tapers on your arms as well as your leg assembly on the bottom. So we'll go ahead and move back into the shop and we'll get this process started. So I went ahead off camera, went ahead and got all my parts laid out, got all my parts cut, sanded, and rounded over. I'll go through my parts list and tell you the measurements as we go. That way, if you want to write them down, you're more than welcome to do so. We're going to build this in three different sub-assemblies. We're going to start out with your seat assembly, which is this pile of parts right here. You've also got your arm assembly, which is this pile of parts right here, and your back assembly. Once we get the sub-assemblies built, then we'll attach them all together and complete the construction of our chair. The first thing we want to do is we'll go through the parts list and we'll cover any cuts, any angles, anything of that nature that we do that process. Starting out with the seat assembly, you got your two lower legs. I don't want to call these legs, but that's what they are. You got front legs as well. These are 2x6, one end for your leg assembly. You're going to measure from one side 2¼ inches in, make a mark. Now you're going to measure down 10 inches and make a mark. Scribe your line between those two marks. You're going to cut this section off. The section that you cut off of this, you can use that on your arm assembly because you need a tapered section for that specific spot. The other side, you'll measure over 2 inches from the outside. Measure down 6 inches. Scribe your line from here to here. Cut that piece off. Now you can discard that if you want to. This is a 2x6 by 34½ inches long. The front plate assembly to your seat is a 2x6 by 24 inches, or excuse me, 27 inches long. Cancel that, it's 24 inches long. Straight cut, that'll hold your legs together. Your rear seat assembly is 2x4. This is 21 inches long with a 15-degree taper. And that 15-degree angle cut is to help align the back assembly. And then your seat itself, you have three pieces that are 5½ inches wide by 20 inches long, and you have two pieces that are 3 inch by 20. that takes care of your seat assembly. Your arm assembly consists of two 1x6, 28 inches long, and this taper that you're going to cut on here from this back edge, you want to go 3¼ inches over and down 10 inches. Scribe your line and cut that piece off. You're going to do that for two of these. This is your arm cleat. Your arm cleat, which goes on the back portion of your arm. These mount to here. It's 27 inches long. Also with a 15-degree cut. And I also took the time to cut a 45 on the corners. You know, it sticks out the back. I don't need nobody running into the corners. Two front leg assemblies, 2x4 by 22 inches long. And then you'll round over one end. This is the end that's going on, sitting on the ground. And then, of course, you got your two pieces that you cut off your lower legs. These two will mount to your front post or front legs and mount to your arm assembly. And that's all the parts for that. Next is your back assembly. Your back assembly consists of a 1x6 or 3/4 by 5½, 40 inches long, the center back slat. And you'll need to cut the corners off of these. This corner is measured 1 inch in and 1 inch down. Gives us a good look on it. You've got two pieces that are 3 inch by 38 inches long. One corner cut off of these. There's going to be one on either side. So your corners are going to kind of line up this way. And then you got two pieces that are 3½ by 36 inches long, and a corner taken off of those. You got your lower back brace assembly, which is 24 inches long. It's a 2x4, 24 inches long. And you got your upper back brace assembly, which is 3/4 by 3½ by 21 inches. And that pretty well covers all the parts that you need. Now you'll need 4 or 5 different screw sizes. I'm going to use 3-inch wood screws, 2½ inch, 2 inch. Use some 1 5/8 and some 1 1/4. Now you can get away with different, not having so many screw sizes, but that's what I have available. So that's, if you got it available, you might as well use it. And with that said, we'll go ahead and get started on the assembly process. We'll do these 3 sub-assemblies, and then we will go ahead and assemble those into the chair. First thing we want to do is we're going to take our 2 leg assemblies, our front board, as well as the seat back brace. We'll assemble those together. You're going to mount this front board flush with the outside corner of your leg. Same thing on the other side. Keep the long taper towards the top. We'll do the same thing over here. We'll line it up. And I like to use clamps. Makes it a little bit easier on me to use clamps to hold everything together. Some of you don't have to, but I'm old, so it just makes it easy on us old people. Once you get that clamped up, you want to make sure it's square. Take your square, set it on the inside. Knock the end down, make sure you get it square. It's going to draw it square when you get everything together. The ends are flush. If they're off a little bit after you get your clamp, I got this rawhide mallet I use. Just take that mallet, knock it a little bit, and it'll get it in there. Check both sides. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use some 3-inch wood screws in this section. Usually if you can, 3-inch are best to hold your 2x4 sections together. Being this close to the end, I always want to drill a pilot hole. Drill a pilot hole and we'll do a countersink. We'll do 2 on this side and 2 on this side. Put some screws in there. Now for those of you who only have one drill motor, it would behoove you, if you're going to do a lot of this, you can go to Lowe's and buy you a set of 2 of these. Because having 2 of these drill motors is handy as having a pocket on a shirt, I'm telling you. These things, put this thing together, and you ain't got to change the drill bit, you ain't got to do anything. Go ahead and drive these in. Do the top ones first. That's just me. Then I'll go back and do the bottom. You ain't got to do it that way. Get your measurement made. Scribe you a mark at 16 inches. You want to do that on both sides. That's where your back seat brace assembly is going to be attached to. So your back seat brace is going to be 16 inches from the inside of your front brace to the front of your seat brace. Now this is the one with the 15 degrees, and you want to make sure that 15 degree is flush with the top of your seat or the top of your leg. Also like to use a clamp on this. Always makes it easier when you're the only one around if you got a clamp. Once you get it clamped in there a little bit, you can go ahead and torque or align with your mallet. Get everything aligned to your 16-inch mark. As I say, make sure that your 15 degree is flush with the top of your legs. I ain't got it tight enough where I can't adjust it. Had it flush with the top. This one dropped down a little bit so you can reach under there and push it back up. Okay, once you get it set, you can go ahead and check your measurements. 16, 16. I'm going to go ahead and clamp it down, and we're going to put 2 screws in each side to hold this in place. I'll go ahead and take care of that and get back with you. Once you get your legs mounted, your front board mounted, and your back seat brace mounted, what we're going to do is we'll take one of the 5.5 inch by 20 inch piece, and it's going to mount right here on the outside edge, and you're going to push it up flush to the back of your back brace assembly. So it's going to be flush on the outside edge as well against your back seat assembly. You're going to have probably like about 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more overhang on the front. You take your square, set it against your side, make sure it's flush so you ain't got no extra room. Your front leg and arm assembly has got to sit down right past this, flush with the outside. Once you get this one set in place, get it lined up, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to set two 2-inch screws in the front as well as in the back. And we'll do that with this one as well as the other side, and then we'll get back to the remainder. Once you get those out, or 2 boards assembled on your seat, you're going to take your other 5.5 piece. We're going to set that in the center. Let's go ahead and throw you a measurement in here. 13 inches. Take 13 inches, we'll mark the center. 6.5 inches is the center on this board. And halfway, the center on your 5.5 piece, which is 2 3/4. And those marks will line up, and we'll put this center piece in. You need to make sure it's square on the back, and then you can eyeball this center mark. You should have about 3 3/4 inches in between the front and back. 3 3/4, 3 3/4. See, that's 4 inches, so that ain't right. We need to move it over a little bit. 3 3/4, 3 3/4. We just had it a little bit off. Bring that up. Make sure it's flush with the back. Once you get it flush, you can check for square. Just kind of lay this up there on the end. Bring it over, check for square. Looks good. What we're going to do now is we'll countersink, drill 2 pilot holes and countersinks in each end, and we'll assemble that center piece. Once you get that center piece in place, go ahead and take your smaller 3-inch pieces. What we're going to do is basically eyeball them. Make sure you got an even gap on both sides. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to eyeball it. Make sure you got the good side up. Get your even gap in there, and what we'll do is we'll put 2 screws in each end of these, and that'll complete the assembly process for your seat sub-assembly. Now with the seat assembly complete, everything's hooked up, we can take this, we'll set it aside, we'll gather up our parts, and we'll do the arm assembly next. What we have here is our arm assembly parts. Of course, we have 2 arms, 2 front legs, 2 arm braces which attach to your front legs, and your back arm brace which attaches to the tapered end of your arms. You want to make sure when you're building the arm assembly that you have the tapered, long taper portion opposite each other. So you got a mirror image, basically, is what you're working with. That taper is going to be on the outside. What we'll do first for this process is we'll attach these wedge brace, arm braces, to our front leg assembly. Basically, you're going to set it up so it's center of your arm, or center of your front leg assembly. And then what I can do is take a clamp. Of course, you know me and clamps. If you ain't got clamps, you got a problem. We'll take this and we'll put a clamp on it down here. You ain't got to clamp it real hard. You just need to clamp it to support it. What we'll do is we'll drill from the inside countersink, and we'll put 2 2.5-inch screws in that to hold it in place. And set it up on the table like this so you can keep it flush on the ends. We'll go ahead and make that connection. Clamp's not really holding anything too well at that point, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift it up here. Get a little better grip. Don't think that'll block y'all's view, will it? Turn it around. So we're still center of the board. We'll drill us 2 holes. We're going to drill one down here at the bottom and one about 3 inches up. Pretty well center, you got to guesstimate. One there and one about right there. Look around. Hey, go a little bit further. About right there. And we'll set 2 2.5 inch screws in that to hold that piece. Seems a little overkill, but that's what you need. One more on this. And that's got your brace set on your front leg assembly. And I'll go ahead and do that other one, and we'll get back to you here in just a second. What we're going to do now, since I got both of them attached, so I'm going to eyeball this. I'm going to put this front leg assembly on the underside of the arm. You need to figure out on your arm which piece you want, what face you want. It really doesn't matter on this one, facing up. So we'll set this on there. And it's going to be 1.5 inches back from the end of your arm assembly. And I like to center it up, center the whole thing up, maybe a little bit inside. We'll keep it 1.25 inches, 1.5 on the end. What I do is I'll take and draw me some scribe lines underneath. And I put those on there as a guide to help me. You're going to screw from the top of the arm down into the leg assembly. So what I'll do is I'll put them on there, set that aside, and I'll drill me some holes from the bottom through the arm assembly, and then I'll flip it over and I'll put my countersink on this side. And we're going to use 2-inch screws on this process to hold these arms in. 2-inch screw will give you a pretty good idea. So you can go ahead and take your screws and start them, and then we're going to actually screw them from the bottom. Once you get your screws set in there, then we'll flip this over. You got to turn them a little bit so it actually starts the screw assembly. You're going to set this back on there. Line it with your marks that you made with your pencil. Some people say, how you going to get them pencil marks off of there? Don't know that I am. But they'll wear out eventually. With that said, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to hold this in place, and I'll drive my screws in from the bottom. Make sure it's still fairly straight. And that attached your arm to your front leg assembly. And I'll go ahead and do that on the other side, making sure that this taper is opposite of that one that I just did. I'll go ahead and get it mounted, and we'll come back to you in just a minute. Now we got the front legs attached. We're going to attach this back arm brace assembly. You need to make sure 2 critical areas in reference to this is it needs to be 21 inches between the inside of this, which is going to fit down over your seat assembly. This portion right here will be 24 inches between your legs, your front legs. Okay? That's the key. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, everything will line up. That said, we'll go ahead and get our back brace assembly. This is the one with the 15 degrees on it. Your 15 degrees is going to face towards your front leg assembly. So you'll set this on there, making sure you got your 21 inches. And you're going to line this up with the center, or center it up on your arm assembly. I guess during the process you could possibly cut this a little bit longer so it flushes up with the outside your taper. But in the meantime, I'll just center this up. Flush on this end, and we're going to screw from the bottom. I've already drilled 2 pilot holes in each section, and we'll throw 2-inch screws in each side to hold this together. There's probably an easier way to do this instead of drilling upside down. Because you know, upside down I have a hard time seeing stuff like that damn hole. I know there's a hole there, I put it there. Get them 2 in, and we'll put these 2 in. Hopefully I didn't get that one too close to the end. Got that lined up. One thing you want to do is check that measurement again. Make sure it's 21 inches. Make sure you're flush on the end. And we'll go ahead and drive these screws in. Same thing on this other side. All right, folks. That right there takes care of your arm assembly. All we need to do now is put the back assembly together, sub-assembly, and then we can go ahead and start putting our parts together to make the chair. So I've got my back assembly pieces laid out here. Lower back brace, upper back brace, center back, which is 3/4 by 5.5 by 40 inches. 2 narrow back pieces, which is 3 inches wide by 38 inches long. And the outer back pieces, which is 3.5 inch wide by 36 inch long. And I make sure that up here at the top, my center board's got 2 notches on it. So I make sure that the notch is on the outside facing this way and the opposite on that other side, so it kind of tapers down like that. I know it's kind of hard to see them notches from a distance, but you know, I'm doing the best I can, I guess. What I want to do first, I'll go ahead and find the center of this board right here. Board is 21 inches long, so the center would be at the 10.5 inch mark. We'll go ahead and put this mark at 10.5 inches. We're going to take our 5.5 piece, we'll find the center of that. Half of 5.5 is 2 3/4. Put your mark at 2 3/4. And we'll line that mark up with the mark on your bottom brace. We've got that piece down there just to hold it up flush with this one, because your upper back brace is 3/4. Putting that piece down there, it's 1.5 inches, it kind of makes it level so I can put this piece in. Go ahead and center it up, check for square. You want to make sure that your back piece is square. and flush on the bottom. Okay, it's squared up. It's on my center mark. It's flush on the bottom. Go ahead and counterbore 2 screw holes. And we can put 2 2-inch screws in this. We're only going to do this one end first, and then we'll swing it around and we'll set the other end in place. What you're going to do next is we're going to set the outer board on this bottom. That's your 3.5-inch piece by 38 inches. We'll make it flush with the bottom and flush on the sides. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Throw it on there, throw your square up there. And if you're flush and your parts are cut square, you're going to be square when you put your board on there. Go ahead and put 2 screws in this one. We'll do this one, and we'll do the other side outer board, and then we'll get back to you. Now I got those 2 outer pieces in place. What we're going to do is take these narrow pieces. They're 3 inches wide by 38 inches long. We're just going to center them up in between the 2 boards. You know, it ain't got to be measured out perfect. You can eyeball it. Once you get it centered up, make sure it's flush on this end. Your eyeball, you're going to be pretty square. Get your gaps set so they look pretty even all the way through. And we'll go ahead and we'll put 2 screws in each one of these, and then we'll spin the part around, and we got to put that upper back brace on to hold the upper portion of the back together. Let me put the screws in these, get them set, and we'll get back to you in a minute. All right, I got my piece turned around. We have to put this upper back brace piece on now. It's going to be 26 inches from the top of your lower back brace piece. It's going to be 26 inches up. Measure 26 inches, put a mark. That's going to be the top of your upper back brace. We'll do that on both sides. Measure 26 inches up. Put a mark. Now what I'm going to do is I'll take a couple of small clamps. We're going to clamp this underneath to where the top of this is at them 26-inch mark. It's going to be flush with the outside. Always have clamps of all different sizes and sizes. I'm going to have to push these together a little bit just to get it lined up with the outside. Okay, once you get that clamped in place, make sure your gaps are all up here. You know, you got a little wiggle room, even though you're set down there at the bottom. Get all your gaps lined up. What we're going to do here is we'll use 1 1/4-inch screws. To hold these boards together. You can use 1 5/8, but it'd be cutting it pretty close. So I'll use 1 1/4 because they're going to sink in a little bit. It's not necessary to pilot drill these. These are self-tapping screws. But what I like to do is go ahead and I'll put 1 there in the center. Come over here and kind of eyeball it across there. Drill another one. Then what I'll do is I'll get me a straight edge I'll throw me a straight edge on there. So all my screws is going to line up, so it ain't jumping up and down all the way across that dang thing. Kind of give it a little cosmetic look. Scribe me a line across there. That line, you're going to be able to sand it off there. And then we'll go ahead and drill holes and pilot holes for all our screws. You don't have to do this, but for me it makes it a little bit easier. And I'm all about doing things the easiest way. Old saying is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. People use that a lot of times. When I was in the military, we'd use that. Some people try to make things harder than what they need to be. And that goes through all aspects of life, I guess. Try to keep things simple, and you ain't got to worry about trying to figure out how to get out of a hard spot. Once you get all your screws in there, you can go ahead and just zip right through here and set them in place. You can hold that damn trigger down. It'll drive that screw all the way through this. You can build these out of any type of wood that you want. These are going to be outside all the time, so I'm using pressure treated wood. You got to just let it dry out, and then you can put a sealant on it. Even pressure treated wood over a period of time will go bad on you. And you can also, a lot of people use cedar, or if you're going to paint them, you can use regular pine. And with that said, this is our third piece to the puzzle, so to speak. That's our third sub-assembly. And the next process in the construction of this project is to put these three pieces together and hopefully end up with a halfway decent looking chair. What we do now is we'll clear us out a spot on this bench. We're going to bring up your seat assembly first and set it up on the table. Everybody remembers this piece. We still got to do a little sanding, but we can go ahead and put it together. One of the key things on this is your front portion of your seat, which is this portion right here, is going to be 8.5 inches above the floor. So you're going to pick this up, and you can get you a piece of wood. What I did is got me a piece of unused wood, marked me a couple of marks at 8.5 inches, and I'll clamp that to the front of this where that lines up the bottom. So I know I'm fairly close. So I'm fairly close to what I need to be. And that says it's only 8 inches, so I need to come up another ½ inch. So what I did is I marked the damn thing wrong. But that's all right. Like I say, nobody's perfect. 8.5 inches. All right, so now we got that set. At this point, the back portion of your legs, which is your short angle, is sitting on your table. That's the portion that's going to be sitting on your ground. What we're going to need now is also a brace. The next piece of the puzzle is we're going to put our arm assembly. I got that arm assembly up. Arm assembly is going to sit right over the outside edge, and I need to get another piece of wood and stick back here to hold that arm assembly up. Just happen to have another piece of unused wood. Some people call this stuff scrap. It's not really scrap, it's just considered unused wood because there's always another project that you could possibly use it for. So, just for you folks out there, I make sure at this point that your arms are pretty well level. And eyeballing them, it looks pretty good. A little bit high in the back, but we can let that down a little bit. That's not a problem. Now we'll come up here to the front, and your leg assembly here is going to line up with the bottom corner. So you go ahead and slide this forward so it's lined up right flush with this bottom corner on both sides. And you know me, I got to have a clamp. If they didn't make clamps, I'd have a hard time doing this job. That clamp ain't near long enough. But that's okay, I got something that'll work. Whenever there's a doubt where your clamp ain't going to be long enough, get you another. I got these at Harbor Freight. I take that back. This one right here says it comes from Ace Hardware. And they say that Ace is the place, but I don't know if it is anymore. It might have used to been the place, but I don't know. We got an Ace Hardware here, and I don't know if it's a management issue or what, but anyway, I shouldn't be addressing that on here. I'm sure that it's just an oversight. Get this clamped in, bring it up snug against the front piece here. Now, with that said, once you get it clamped in, it's never going to be perfect at the beginning, so you're going to feel right along here. And you can take, I got a rawhide mallet that I use, but it kind of knocks that back a little bit and gets it lined up. Now, with that said, I'm going to take some 3.5-inch screws, 3-inch screws, and I'll put 2 here and another one right here. The whole, actually 2 here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 to hold this in place, and I'll do that on both sides. I can't put any on this side because it's open on the chair side. So I'll go ahead and get these drilled and set 3 screws in it. It's not necessary to pilot hole all the time, drill your pilot, but I do because it makes it easy on me. I'll put 1 here, put 1 up here. Looking over, I'll put another in right here. I could technically put 4 in there, but I think 3 would be sufficient. And what you could do is get you some 3.5-inch carriage bolt and put you some 3.5-inch carriage bolt in there. And that'd hold it pretty snug. Now I got this side. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and do the other side and get back to you in just a minute. And fingers crossed, hopefully it fits. Tell you what, it looks like it was made for that spot, doesn't it? I'll make sure when you put this in place that your seat assembly is flush with the top of your legs back here. Once you get it flushed up, you're going to put two 3-inch screws through each side, and then I'm going to put 3 through the back going into that seat brace assembly. Like I say, we don't need to pre-drill all these, but it makes it a little bit easier for me. Got that 15-degree angle, so we got to allow for that. And I'll go ahead and I'll put them on the other side, and I'll put some back here in the back, and I'll get that taken care of, and we'll get back to you here in just a minute. Now that I've got that back assembly attached to the bottom or seat assembly, what I need to do now is I'll scribe me a line through here, and I'll run some screws into this arm assembly back brace and attach the back to that. In order to do that, I'm going to be moving this from this location. I'll move it down to the floor where it's a little bit easier to work on. So y'all give me a minute and let me reset up. Well, I've got myself relocated to the floor. What I'm going to do now is I'll take me a straight edge, and I'm going to run a straight edge across here. If I put it up against the bottom of my arms, it looks like it's going to be about center of that back brace. So I'll scribe me a line, then I can drill my pilot hole to attach it to my back arm support brace. If you notice this little gap here, it's pretty dang close to flush. So I'll go ahead and drill some pilot holes, and I'm going to screw that to the back arm brace utilizing 2-inch wood screws. Alright, now I got everything assembled. All my screws in. The floor ain't flush. A little bit wobbly, but that'll be alright. The thing I really need to do now is do some touch-up sanding and clean it up a little bit, and it'll be ready to go. As of right now, this project is complete. I'm sitting down and having me a cold drink. And with that said, I do appreciate y'all watching these videos. They may or may not be informative, and I may or may not cover everything that you want me to cover. But I appreciate it anyway, and if I can get you to maybe like, share, subscribe, and go ahead and make some comments, I can go from there. We take all criticism. It doesn't really matter what it is. But with that said, this project is now complete. And I want y'all to have a good, safe holiday weekend. 4th of July is coming up. Y'all have a good, safe holiday weekend. Don't blow no finger parts off doing them fireworks. And with that said, this is Old Dog Woodshop. And we out until next time.